let's talk about the RCF brakes. Before we do, I'm gonna wash these things. So on these fancy Brembos, you need a hammer and a punch. So once you take those two 13 millimeters out, you put the punch inside the pin, tap it out. After that, you also have a couple of other pins here. So these are only going to go out one way. So you want to punch out punch in the sharp end. Hope y'all like the slow music to these fast clips. Boom, look at this. Where are my pads at? Oh, the caliper's really pressed in there. See if we can compress the piston to get these things out. There you go. Look at that pad. It's huge. Get your 17 millimeter in your breaker bar. Always remove the bottom one first, and then leave the top one, and then run your strap through the caliper and the coil spring, and then remove that final top one and get the caliper out of the way. Like I was saying, with no security screw, this thing just comes right off. Minimum thickness 31. We're at the bench. I want to just try and see what these rotors were at. Yeah, not bad, 32. So we're a millimeter away from tossing these in the trash. If you ask me, it's time. I always replace rotors when I do pads because I'm a nerd like that, but just 40,000 miles in an RCF will bring you within 1 millimeter of spec, just daily driving. We're over here on the passenger side. I've already taken everything apart, and I wanted to revise how to get into these brake pads. So the first thing you want to do is to punch out the small pin. Okay, so once you do that, that is going to allow you to rotate this forward, and you can actually pop this off. And then you'll punch this out. So small pin, rotate out the clip, and then rotate and then pull out the big pin. And then I wanted to show you this, something I found on the passenger side. We have our first problem. It's something I alluded to with the Lexus Tech not being able to get this aligned to spec. We have a bad wheel hub. Hear that? I let PB Blaster soak on these 4 bolts for this wheel bearing. 17 millimeter once again. I found it best to use this long handled wrench. Getting them out was really easy. That's due to low miles and PB Blaster. There's a little, assuming it's a speed sensor back here. Yeah, get it off from the bottom. Just get a small little pick. Can't really get you a good shot of that, but small little pick and this little sensor will come off. The new wheel bearing is here. It was actually really reasonably priced on RockAuto. It was 180 bucks. Everywhere else it was at least over 300 bucks. So let's take it out and see what it looks like compared to the old one. Always a good idea to compare parts. A lot of times you can have small differences between the two. Let's see. Looks good to me. Can you say hi, Knox? That's my son in the background. Let's see. It looks pretty close to me. Look at that. You get the MOOG blue cap on the back. Yeah, I say we rock it. So an old machinist trick right here. Thanks, Knox. An old machinist trick right here is to take your metal part, especially a part that's going to be going inside another part. You want it to be smaller than the receiving part. So you want to freeze it. Actually take this and put it into the freezer. So that'll effectively make this, this right here smaller. So it'll glide in nice.
Here we go. Back in the back.
Say hi, you two.
Hi.
After about an hour or so, pull our part out of the freezer. Alright, the sensor is gonna go up. Yeah, it's pretty loose tolerance on that, you can see. But that'll do. Let's run the bolts in. I ended up reusing the bolts here. Best practice is to replace these bolts. I used blue Loctite on these. It's a removable Loctite. I also found a spec for a generic wheel bearing to be 75 foot-pounds. I could not find the torque rating for this. Let's jump to the rear brakes. 17mm will remove the caliper. From there, punch those 2 pins out, and then you can compress the pads a little bit to get the retaining clip out of there, and then pop the pads out, and then put the caliper on top of the rotor assembly. Then from here, easy removal. Rear brakes came in. Thank you to RockAuto. Went with some power stop evolutions. These are ceramic, quiet, low dust is what I wanted. I'm pretty sure the metallic pads that came on this thing stock were probably great on track, but quite honestly, they would dust so bad. They were a little noisy. Anyway, these will fit the bill. And then got some E-coated rotors. Definitely like a cheaper rotor, but I've heard really good things about these rotors, meaning just their price point. There's actually some kind of warehouse deal. These are 20 bucks a piece. I mean, shoot, if they're that bad or they warp, whatever, throw on some little bit higher quality stuff. But typically the cheaper rotors aren't coated at all, or they're just painted. The E-coating will last a little bit longer. We'll see with these, but they came with some oil all over them, so we need to get that off with some brake cleaner before we slap them on. Now that we're under here, I thought we'd kind of look through some of the design of this. It's a multi-link rear end suspension design. I want to know what the rear subframe is. It looks very similar to my BMWs. It's definitely a steel, stamped steel, tubular steel rear subframe. The design's the same. These bushings look very similar to the Beamers. But also, you notice this. Rear rack. There's some kind of rear steer system on this car. I never knew that about this car until now. Never felt it. I guess I'm really not familiar with rear steer on any car, but that's pretty interesting. I'll have to read up on that and see what that's all about. See when that comes into effect, whether it's like a low speed turning radius or what. This one does not have the torque vectoring rear diff. This is just the standard limited slip diff. You can see that there. It's kind of cool. Some of the heat sink on the bottom of the diff. I do like how they mounted the diff to the subframe. You can see those 2 mounts on either side. I like that design. I really just want to take these the rear muffler off, do the cat back, delete, just to see what that sounds like. I've got a couple bolts and remove some rubber hangers. We could have it off here pretty quick. I think the heat was getting to me. I do have rear pads, so I'm gonna put these pads back in this caliper and snatch this back together. I've got this canopy over here, so I moved it to block the sun. And all the wheels are out there baking. Yo, I was just thinking these videos are getting pretty long. This is really a vlog, not necessarily a DIY. So just putting back the caliper on, I ended up finding the torque was 92 foot-pounds. Coated the back of the pads with the grease, put them in there. Put the rotors on backwards. We need to swap them. See those venting vanes? They need to be going the other way. Yeah. Front rotors are here. They're huge. But look at the size of this thing. 15 inches. Just crazy. I mean, my hand, I can't even, not even on the rotor surface itself. So let's slap these on. I'm gonna do a super speed to make this video not be so long. The caliper mount torque is 100 foot-pounds. The large pins, or what it's technically called, are the bridge bolts at 13 millimeter. Those are 22 foot-pounds. I think the next episode we need to put the new wheels and tires on this RCF and drive it. Really excited to bed the brakes in. See y'all in the next episode.